I'm Dr. Christopher Pena, and I am the Scientific Liaison for the University of Chicago Comprehensive Cancer Center.
I'm Dr. Megan Mekinda. I'm the Assistant Director for Cancer Education with the University of Chicago Comprehensive Cancer Center. We are here today with a number of students, high school and college students from our cancer research training programs, Chicago Eyes on Cancer and Research Start. These are programs that bring students in who think they might like a career in biomedicine, and they work full-time in the laboratories of some of our cancer research faculty at the university. And the goal is to give them an opportunity to learn some really fantastic research skills and also have some experience with career development and exposure to these type of careers. But the exciting thing is for us is that these kids are really participating in some of the cutting edge research that is helping us to understand cancer much better, and the end goal being to end cancer.
Great. So we're really excited to showcase some of our students today and the research they've been doing and the knowledge that they've acquired throughout the summer. This is the fourth episode in a four-part series that focuses on cancer survivorship, or what it's like to live life once you have a cancer diagnosis. Our first episode focused on cancer therapy, our second on immunotherapy, our third on prevention and detection. And so welcome to our fourth episode, and I think we'll get started and have our first student. So again, we are Chicago Eyes on Cancer and Research Start. We're a program based out of the University of Chicago, geared specifically for high school and undergraduate students who want to partake in a research experience where they can work in a lab that studies cancer biology. Now, this can be clinical-based research or basic science research, but the end goal, again, is to develop some kind of project where they're studying how cancer starts, develops, and possible treatment avenues that they can have with it. So with that said, I am here with two of my guests, Ocean and Aisha. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Good, thank you. So Ocean, I know you wanted to talk to us a little bit more about survivorship, so why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different factors that determine someone's outcome and survivorship or quality of life. The biggest ones are your race and ethnicity. So for example, African Americans, males, make up the largest number of new cases every year and the largest number of deaths per year. While on the other hand, Caucasian women make up the largest percentage of new cases each year, but African American women make up the largest percentage of deaths. So as you can see in the first slide, I am currently researching gastric cancer, which is the 5th most common cancer worldwide, in addition to being the 3rd most common for cancer-related death. So in this graph, we have the prevalence of gastric cancer in different regions. So as you can see, the blue means the incidence for gastric cancer, and the red means mortality rate. So as you can see on the left side here, we have the male, and then on the right side we have the female. So as you go down, you can see that like Western Africa, Northern Africa, Middle Africa have the least prominence of gastric cancer, while as you go up, Eastern Asia, Central and Eastern Europe, and less developed regions have more incidence rates and higher mortality rates of gastric cancer. So in my summer research project, I'm basically studying how many gastric cancer patients have this buildup of fluid in the abdomen known as ascites fluid. And in that fluid there are cancer cells, which makes us think it's a type of metastasis. So in this graph, particularly in 2012, around 1 million cases of gastric cancer reported, and about half of those were in Eastern Asia, specifically China. So one reason for this is due to environmental factors. So in China, they have a big issue with H. pylori infection. So H. pylori is extremely affiliated with gastric cancer, and it's been identified as one of the main causes of or risk factors for gastric cancer.
So in addition to that, you're going to tell us a little bit more about African Americans and breast cancer as well.
Yeah, so in the following graph, you see African Americans and breast cancer compared to white people. So the kind of purple-pink line is white people, whereas the black line is African Americans. So in addition to gastric cancer, certain population groups face an unequal burden of breast cancer incidence and mortality. According to the SEER Cancer Statistics Review, African American women are almost twice as likely as Caucasian women to be diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer, the most aggressive form of breast cancer. This graph shows that African American women are more likely to die from breast cancer.
Okay, so that's looking at breast cancer. Now, is there any kind of difference that you see with prostate cancer?
Yeah, so in prostate cancer, African American males have a higher mortality rate in prostate cancer as well.
Wow. So what I'm going to show here is a graph from the SEER Cancer Statistics Review, and basically this is the percentage of all cancer cases among gender and race. So again, if you just look at it, there are some health disparities both within different races and based on gender as well.
So why are there differences in incidence between race and ethnicity? Is it all genetic?
Actually, there are some genetic factors among different races that predispose them to cancer, but there can be other kinds of factors as well. One of them could actually be socioeconomic status. So this can include somebody's access to healthcare and whether or not they're able to get to a hospital to do screenings or checkups. Other times it can actually be where you live. So there are instances where if you live in a certain neighborhood, it can be around carcinogenic compounds or byproducts, and that can increase your cancer risk as well. So what I'm going to show here is an interesting study done in the 1980s in a town called Newton, Connecticut, and this was one of the main studies that pioneered health disparities research. But what you see is that there are different neighborhoods, specifically these in this tannish kind of yellow color, where women were coming in presenting with a high incidence of breast cancer. And what was interesting was that there are other area codes where the incidence was incredibly low. And what they had found was that these neighborhoods right here were actually kind of these farm town areas where women were constantly being exposed to different pesticides and whatnot. So it later got found out in the 1980s that pesticides were really harmful and could mutate people's DNA, which of course would lead to cancer. So if you lived in these neighborhoods, chances are you were near pesticides, which led to breast cancer among the women in the different areas. So that's something that is also incredibly important to consider where you're living. So there is a way to offer preventative measures despite where you live or your race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic class. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about what those preventative measures are?
Sure. So there are many programs that offer free screenings to lower income individuals and have been found to be successful in early detection and improving survival rates. Also, recent genomic research has begun to find genetic factors for cancer disparities among different races and ethnicities, leading to increased surveillance in those that are especially high risk. These initiatives, along with new, more racially and ethnically diverse clinical trials and research, have been making promising progress towards eliminating disparities across the country.
Wow. So you mentioned clinical trials, drug therapies, all these things. I've always heard that they're really expensive. So Aisha, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself today and also how someone can afford these kinds of therapies?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Aisha Ahmed. I'm a rising senior at Nicholas Sen High School. Answering your question, you're right that the cost of cancer care are skyrocketing and the financial burden can be really difficult for patients and their families. That is why access to quality care for everyone is really important for screening, especially for those at high risk for cancer. To the latest and the most effective treatments. Thankfully, there are some programs out there that can help patients get access to care that they need through partnerships between government, hospital or clinic, and cancer-focused nonprofit organizations. These programs are especially important for people that are insured or underinsured, meaning that they don't have enough coverage to cover for their care. In addition, it is important to conduct research into what is causing high cost of cancer and what we can do about it.
Wow, so essentially that kind of research is incredibly important because the cost of at least 2 years of chemotherapy or some kind of cancer treatment is equal to almost the price of a mid-sized sedan vehicle, a couple of mortgage payments, or for our younger audience, even college tuition. So it's incredibly important to figure out why cancer can be costly and to look around for whatever options are available out there that allow paying for a treatment can be to be a little bit more financially easier. So now that we talked about the financial burden, can you tell us a little bit more about outlook or prognosis? So let's say that I do get diagnosed with cancer. What exactly does it mean for my future?
Okay, that is a great question, but can be very hard to say. Different cancers have different survival rates and different treatment options, so there's no definitively to predict this. That said, we now have powerful tools called biomarkers that can help understand how an individual cancer might behave. It is vital to make sure to always communicate with your care team, doctor, nurses, etc. Because they are the best sources you can have. If patients are confused or things are not clear, they should feel empowered to ask questions to make sure they understand their diagnosis and prognosis, treatment plan, and possible long-term side effects. So it's really important for you to talk to your doctor and understand what you're going through and what treatment you're getting.
Okay, so maintaining that constant communication with
Yes.
your physician is important. So you had mentioned a second ago about side effects that are associated with cancer treatment, one of them being hair loss. So can you explain why that occurs, and does hair eventually grow back?
Okay, yeah. So chemotherapy generally works by killing all rapidly dividing cells, including some that are normal, such as cells in the hair follicle, as well as cancer cells. Typically, when someone is done with chemotherapy treatment, their hair grows back. Fortunately, until then, there are organizations such as American Cancer Center Society that provides wigs and other cosmetics service for those affected by cancer, hair loss, and other physical changes. At University of Chicago, there is Center of Supportive Oncology that provides all sort of service to help patients going through cancer diagnosis or treatment, including nutrition, physical therapy, social work, and support group, etc.
Right, so let's say that you're getting cancer therapy and your cancer goes away, so that's really good. But I always hear that people still have to go to these follow-up visits even when their cancer is in remission or it's gone. Why is that? Why do people still have to go to the doctor even if their cancer looks like it's going away?
So follow-up care is very important even if the cancer may have been eliminated, especially when dealing with more cancers that have higher rates of cancer-related deaths, such as gastric cancer or lung cancer. Additionally, some treatments can make patients higher risk for second types of cancers. In all of these cases, early detection is key. It's something you're going to hear us say a lot. Sometimes patients have long-term effects of their treatments and need help managing those symptoms. Patients should always go to follow-up appointments and discuss any symptoms they have, no matter how embarrassing they are. Again, it's important that patients discuss their long-term outlook with their care team and follow a survivor care plan that they are given.
All right, okay, well, thank you both for sharing that with us. We're going to have another two guests on here again. We are Chicago Eyes on Cancer and Research Start. We are based out of the University of Chicago, and we offer a summer research program for high school and undergraduate students. We give them the opportunity to work in a cancer biology lab where they can advance cancer research and treatment, therapy, diagnostics, whether they're working with basic science or more clinical science. If you are interested or know someone who is interested in our program, you can reach us at the link that's on the screen, or you can give us a call at 773-702-4678. I am here with my next two guests, Jacob and Alexis. Welcome, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for stopping by. Jacob, you're going to tell us a little bit more about cancer recurrence.
Yeah, so cancer can definitely recur. Kind of just depends if you have a fast-growing cancer or a more of an advanced cancer. And just because you are in remission doesn't mean the cancer is necessarily cured. It just means there aren't any tests or we can't really exactly see the cancer in the current stages. And so my kind of research goes into preventing these recurrences. And so I look at bacteria in the gut and how well they digest and are able to break down collagen, which is a tissue in your skin that keeps it together and elastic. And so when you have a colon tumor, you kind of surgically remove it and then you tie it back together. And so these bacteria are able to eat down this and cause leaks, and that causes higher recurrence rates. And so our research kind of looks at whether bowel prep, which is a form of cleaning the gut, whether it actually helps or hurts the system. And what we found is that it generally hurts the survivors in that they have higher recurrence rates.
So specifically, I've always heard that there's good kinds of bacteria in your gut and there's bad kinds of bacteria. So what kind of bacteria is associated with that recurrence?
Yeah, so the bad bacteria is more of the kind that eats away at your collagen. There are many types, but ours specifically looks at Enterococcus faecalis, which again eats at the collagen, which is tearing away the tissue. And so you want a gut that is able to help digest your food and process nutrients, and bowel prep typically strips your gut of most of these bacteria, but again leaves some of these few harmful types, and so that kind of hurts your bacteria or hurts your gut in the long run.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
with us. So we've talked a little bit about health disparities, the financial burden of cancer, outlook, and now recurrence. But one thing that we've really been missing is whenever you get a cancer diagnosis, it's not just you who gets affected. You have loved ones, family members, friends, coworkers. So Alexis is here today, and you're going to tell us a little bit about what it's like to discuss a cancer diagnosis with somebody who's close to you.
Yeah, definitely. So, a cancer diagnosis can be a very difficult time for not only the patient, but friends, family, caregivers, anyone who really cares for the patient and loves them. So many patients find that their family and their friends are their biggest support system, and that can be overwhelming. And there are support systems out there for those caregivers and patients as they go through their treatment. So you can contact your local hospital or the American Cancer Society National Cancer Information Center, the NCIC. It's a 24/7 hotline, and you can contact them at 1-800-227-2345 for more information.
Right, so let's say you do get a cancer diagnosis and you're getting treated, and let's say it goes away. Can people go back to work after treatment?
That really depends on the patient and what type of work you do. So say somebody who has a job that's very physically strenuous, such as construction or labor, they might not be able to go back to their job. 'Cause chemotherapy tends to make patients feel very nauseous and weak, and doing such hard labor might not be feasible. So some people work throughout their treatment and go back to work right after, but once again, this really depends on the stage of the cancer, the type of treatment that you're receiving, and your overall health and wellness.
So that's great that, maybe they have a chance to go back to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
But does anyone really feel normal after getting cancer treatment? Do they feel normal again, I guess, is what I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that's a
ask.
tough question. Many cancer patients would say that they have to find a new normal, but maintaining a healthy lifestyle can help patients through their treatment to feel better sooner afterwards. So eating the right foods can help you manage your nausea and fatigue and to maintain your strength. Physical activity is very important when the patient feels able to do so. It can help patients feel less nauseous, have higher self-esteem, better blood circulation, and decrease the chance of heart disease.
Great. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your project? I know it has a little bit to do with some of the side effects of cancer treatment.
Yeah. So unfortunately, there are some side effects of cancer treatment that won't go away. So my lab is studying the long-term effects of chemotherapy, specifically hearing loss and tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears. So some patients experience hearing loss and tinnitus after they receive cisplatin. Cisplatin is a chemotherapy drug that's very popular. It's very effective, but it's also very toxic. So even though patients can be cured of their cancer in some cases, when they're on cisplatin treatment, they have this hearing loss that they have to deal with for the rest of their lives. And it can be very detrimental to their quality of life. But progress is being made in the lab that I work in and other labs across the country and across the world to improve the quality of life for cancer survivors.
Great. So does cisplatin have any other kind of side effects?
Cisplatin also can cause depression, anxiety, learning issues, neuropathy, which is tingling and numbness in the hands and the bottom of the feet. It can cause people to feel very weak, fatigue, joint stiffness. Yeah.
Okay, so these problems, either through chemotherapy or the actual cancer itself, sound incredibly complicated. So I would imagine that people would want to try to find somewhere that they can go to kind of share what they're experiencing. So Jacob, do you know of any of these places where people can kind of go and get these feelings worked out?
Yeah, so there are plenty of support groups. It's more finding the one that's right for you. And so cancer can be a very hard time and stressful time in your life. And so whether that be emotional help or spiritual help, I think there are many different kinds that can help you. Some examples are there are peer-led or self-help groups led by the members, whether that be through your local church or community hospital or community center. There are professional-led groups through counselors, social workers, or psychologists, and they kind of help you, they kind of lead you through your experience. And there's also informational support groups, and those kind of just give you things to look into, like follow your symptoms and know about your health and what can be better and what can be good, bad. And so I think we live in a great time today where the internet is such a helpful tool. And so we can literally look up at our fingertips local hospitals and community centers to find help. We can find help online through chat rooms or phones or even on social media platforms like Facebook. And I think these tools are there for us, and it makes support groups very accessible today.
Great. Well, thank you guys for sharing that with us. Again, we are Chicago Eyes on Cancer and Research Start. We are a program based out of the University of Chicago, geared specifically for high school and undergraduate students. If you are interested in our summer research opportunities, you can find us at the link that's on the screen, or give us a call at 773-702-4678. So I'm still here with Jacob and Alexis, and you guys are going to share a little bit about your experiences this summer. So why don't you go ahead and let me know how it was beneficial for both of you.
Okay, so I guess I'll start. I was part of Research Start, and that's a program for high school juniors and seniors. And so it was a great experience to be in. I was in part of a lab that, it was kind of a big lab, and half the people, half the students or faculty were international, so that was kind of a good experience, learning more about them and how they do research and kind of networking with the people. And I thought my overall experience was pretty great. I worked specifically on live stool samples, and so those were stool samples taken post-operatively and pre-operatively with bowel prep, and I kind of analyzed them to see the bacteria levels in there. And I thought that in itself had its own challenges, and I wasn't exactly looked over the shoulder, and so they gave me my own kind of self-confidence and my own kind of learning to go on and forward. And I thought it was a great experience to help me in the future, whether that be through college or after college, in my research endeavors.
Great. And Alexis?
So I'm in Eyes, which is a 2-year program, so I'm finishing up my 2nd year. And I'm in the same lab that I was in last summer, so I got to continue a lot of the same research and build on the same skills that I learned last year to just solidify them so it can help me in college and throughout when I'm pursuing other research opportunities. And unlike Jacob, my lab is pretty small. So I got more of that one-on-one attention, but also that freedom to kind of go off and try something out. But I could still felt comfortable going back to my supervisor or somebody else in the lab and being like, can you help me with this? Can you look this over for me? Did I do this right? Things like that.
Cool. So what kind of skills do you feel both of you have learned that can help you in the future?
Yeah, so I guess my skills overall, I learned a lot of methodology, whether that be plating bacteria and culturing it and all of that. And so I've also learned a little bit of analyzing data as well through softwares. And so I think a lot of it was just an experience overall. I learned the techniques, I learned the software, I learned how to use the machines, and I think that's a big part of research, being able to use all the machines to your advantage and use all your resources. And I think that was a big help, as well as learning about all the resources I have, like the online libraries, and learning how to read scientific papers and use scientific literature in my findings.
So I also learned a lot of the, not learned, but kind of continued on some of the things that Jacob said. So working with cells, reading papers, learning machinery, growing cells, and also how to communicate scientific research and understand it better, how to word my sentences and explain to other people what my research is, different varying audiences, what I've learned and what I want to continue learning in the future.
Great. So it sounds like both of you had a really interesting summer.
Yeah, it's been great.
Would you do it again? That's the final question.
Well, I did do it again.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, you did do it again. For a 3rd time, you'd come back.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you for
having
having
us.
us.
Thank you. So again, we are Chicago Eyes on Cancer and Research Start. We're a program based at the University of Chicago. We are geared specifically for high school and undergraduate students who are interested in a summer research opportunity. Now, they can do different kinds of research, but the main thing encompassing it is that it's cancer biology related. So they can look mainly at the basic science of cancer, or they can even look at clinical aspects of cancer, such as diagnosis, treatment, therapy, and even health disparities, which some of them we have talked about today. So if you are interested in our program, you can reach us at the website that is listed on the screen, or you can give us a call at 773-702-4678. Again, if you're interested or know someone who is interested, please feel free to call and ask us any questions. So thank you again. And any last parting words that you guys want to share?
I would say that it's been an extremely rewarding experience. It's been different than what I thought. When I came into the program, I had zero lab experience, zero knowledge of terminology. I had high school biology, which it prepares you, but it doesn't really prepare you for working in an actual lab setting. So I would say that it's been really rewarding. I've learned a lot. It's been amazing how much I've learned in 2 years during these 2 summers. I can't complain.
Great. Yeah, I as well. So the only thing I've taken was first year biology, and even with that, I think everyone in the lab was super helpful. They kind of like broke it down, and I don't think you need to take a class to understand a concept. Like I went out and studied cancer biology, even though I wasn't that familiar in biology. But again, I took the initiative, and I think a lot of students can too. So it's just about applying yourself and applying to programs like these.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. I think that is going to conclude our show for the day. Again, we are Chicago Eyes on Cancer, Research Start. You can reach us at the link that's on the screen or give us a call at 773-702-4678. Thank you.